Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this webinar on pivoting towards a career in biomanufacturing, connecting the dots between research, development, and manufacturing. This webinar is a part of a series of planned webinars with the goal of providing information on vaccine development and available career options in the field of vaccinology. My name is Clive Nyaribo, Assistant Research Officer at the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Program, providing support to the Vaccinology Workforce Development Program, together with my colleagues, Professor George Warime, Marianne Munene, Caroline Mate, and Rina Imbai. We welcome you to this session. Before we start, a few housekeeping matters. Kindly take note that this webinar is being recorded. Kindly feel free to use the chat option to share your questions during the presentation, and we'll address them during the Q&A session. We'll have a few open slots for people to directly ask questions to the presenters. If your internet is stable, you can raise your hand using the available icon. As Arya mentioned, these are a series of planned webinars with the goal of providing information on available career options in the field of vaccinology. This being run under the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Program, which is a world-renowned health research unit of excellence based in Kilifi and Nairobi in Kenya, as well as Mbare in Uganda. Over the years, we have excelled in the use of novel ideas and collaborations to achieve better health for Africa, while also developing African scientific leaders. Our vision of the program is to undertake cutting-edge and novel research relevant to national, regional, and global needs. It's under this program that we have a Vaccinology Workforce Development Program that aims to expand the technical know-how and capability for sustainable end-to-end vaccine research and development in Africa through training and knowledge exchange activities in the vaccine ecosystem. This involves areas such as target product profiling, research and discovery, preclinical and clinical studies, biomanufacturing, regulatory affairs, and deployment. The workforce development is through three channels. We have internships at human vaccine manufacturing institutions that aims at establishing a mentorship scheme that links interns with senior vaccinologists and LT market systems and engagement academics globally to share, strengthen experiences and research experiences in vaccine R&D and manufacture and enhance career development. We also have a full funded 2 weeks master's level course in vaccinology presented in both English and French to successful applicants who actually have already taken the course in Senegal. This year it was in Senegal, Dakar. And of course there is topics such as vaccine research and the excellence in professional and academic achievement. We also have webinars like this one that we're having today to hire career scientists, graduate and undergraduate university students in Africa to provide information on possible career options for university students for informed career decision making. Of course, this program is in alignment with the African Union's Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacture, ambition to increase local vaccine production to meet 6% of Africa's routine immunization needs by 2040, and strengthen the capability for vaccine research, discovery, and manufacture in Africa. And this webinar series is part of this engagement. Today, we are glad to have Ngirande, who will be discussing pivoting towards a career in biomanufacturing, connecting the dots between research, development, and manufacturing. Ms. Ngirande is a pharmaceutical biotechnologist working as a senior scientist with the National Biotechnology Authority of Zimbabwe. Over to you, Ngirande. Warm welcome.
Thank you, Clive. Let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we are able to see.
All right, so I'll start. Hello, everybody. My name is Ngirande, as alluded to earlier, and I'll be sharing today on the topic pivoting towards a career in biomanufacturing, connecting the dots between research, development, and manufacturing. And this is a webinar under the Vaccinology webinar series. Okay, quick disclaimer. The views and opinions that I will express in this opinion are solely my own and do not reflect the official policy or position of any present, past, or future affiliated institution or employer. And the content that I'll be sharing is only for informational and educational purposes. Also, if I make any references to processes or technologies or systems, it is purely illustrative. The objective of my webinar is to share my experience pivoting from research and development to vaccine manufacturing, with the goal of providing insight for those who are looking to make a similar career change or to start a new career in biomanufacturing. So I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. Like I said, my name is Ngirande. I'm a mom to a wonderful 2-year-old boy. I'm also a wife, and I'm a pharmaceutical biotechnologist, and I'm currently employed with the National Biotechnology Authority of Zimbabwe under the Research, Development and Innovation Department. My career started in the molecular side of things. I started at a research station in Zimbabwe called Kutaga Research in the Molecular Biology Division Services. Then I moved to Russia and I worked for the laboratory for enzyme and DNA analysis. And I also worked for a company called Innovations, which was manufacturing animal vaccines. Then I moved back to Zimbabwe and joined the National Biotechnology Authority. And later on, I went to Hilleman Laboratory, Singapore for a vaccine manufacturing apprenticeship, which I completed in May this year. And now I'm back with my employer, the National Biotechnology Authority of Zimbabwe. So my vaccinology journey started with university education. I have a Bachelor of Technology from Chino University of Technology in Zimbabwe and a Master's in Pharmaceutical Biotechnology from the Novosibirsk Agrarian University in Russia. And this provided a theoretical base for me to start my career in vaccinology. So my education gave me skills in molecular biology, microbiology, genetic engineering, biologics development, and bioprocess engineering. Later on, I started a career in research and development, and I gained research skills such as it allowed me to develop scientific curiosity. It allowed me to learn experimental design, data analysis, method development, technical lab skills, and academic writing. So these skills from my education and the time I spent in research development provided me leverage that I used to transition to vaccine manufacturing. And for me to be able to transition to vaccine manufacturing, I needed to develop a knowledge base and a theoretical knowledge base, gain some skills and some experience. So to do that, I went for some short training courses. The first one I attended was with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in South Africa in Pretoria. It was on vaccine manufacturing technologies. Then I went for a hands-on training at the International Vaccine Institute in conjunction with K Biopharmaceuticals, that was in South Korea. Then I did a 12-month apprenticeship with Hilleman Laboratories in Singapore. And while I was at Hilleman Laboratories, Singapore, I was under the Technical Services and Validation Department, and it allowed me to gain expertise in commissioning, qualification, and validation, also technical operations, audit preparation, and people management skills. And now, where I am is now, I'm now looking to make an impact in the vaccine manufacturing, and also to keep on growing in this field. So vaccines are complex biological products, and their manufacturing demands deep scientific understanding of biological systems, aseptic manufacturing principles, and regulatory frameworks. The skills required in this field, they go beyond technical competencies, but also a mindset shift to that of precision, compliance, and accountability, which are needed to operate successfully in highly regulated environments and respond to evolving technologies. A lot of initiatives are currently available in Africa to support those people who are looking to begin a career in biomanufacturing or transition from research and development like I did in the form of short training courses and apprenticeship. And I just listed some of the organizations that I know that are providing this support. For example, the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust. My transition was largely supported by the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust, and also the CSIR, which is the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in South Africa, and also the International Vaccine Institute in South Korea. Also, Hilleman Laboratories is hosting apprenticeship, which I was part of. I'm a product of that apprenticeship program, which was also sponsored by the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust. The World Health Organization also has some marathons where they're training about vaccine manufacturing. Also, the Wright Foundation from South Korea also has some training programs. And also Institute Pasteur from Dakar, the Africa CDC, and the DCMVN. So if you're interested in taking part in some of these training programs, you can follow some of these organizations, and when they put out adverts for training, you apply, and chances are you will be accepted into the programs. Now, what are the benefits of these trainings in vaccinology? So there are two types of training. That is the short courses and the apprenticeships. And from my experience, the short training courses, they provide an entry point into vaccinology. Even for someone who has no background in vaccinology, this would be a good point to start. Usually these courses can take maybe 5 weeks. Some of them have, they start with theoretical training online, and then they have hands-on training for a few weeks. And they provide a strong theoretical base of knowledge, which fills in the gaps between formal education and vaccine manufacturing. So in formal education, normally you will learn general skills that might not be specifically for vaccine manufacturing, but these short training courses will fill in those gaps for you. And also it serves as an introduction of what to expect in the industry. So when you decide to transition, you will be knowing what to expect. It's also a good opportunity to network with people who are already in the industry, because sometimes people who are already working in vaccine manufacturing will attend these courses. For example, from my experience when I was in South Korea, I met people from biogeneric pharma. I also met people from Biovac. A lot of vaccine manufacturing companies send their staff also to these trainings. Then apprenticeships take a bit longer than the short courses. Some of them can be 12 months or longer, like the one that I attended. And this will provide you with real industry experience that provides real world skills that you can use in an actual job. For instance, my apprenticeship training, before I started, I thought I would be sitting in a classroom listening to someone teaching me. But as soon as I got there, I hit the ground running. I was part of a team doing real work, learning on the job, and it was a safe space because you're allowed to ask questions, you're allowed to make mistakes, and the people who are providing the apprenticeship, for example, at Hilleman Laboratories, they were willing to assist me, to explain things to me, to teach me everything step by step. Whenever I needed to learn something in a psychologically safe space where nobody was waiting to find fault or to condemn you, it really provided me an opportunity to grow and to learn. And also apprenticeship will give you an opportunity to experience end-to-end manufacturing and development, depending on what's available at the organization where you're doing the apprenticeship. For example, Hilleman Laboratories has both a research and development function and a manufacturing unit. So I was able to experience both the development side and the manufacturing side, which might not be possible to do in a short training. And also you get to learn from industry experts who've been working in the vaccine manufacturing industry for a while. You get to work with them, see how they work. You learn the industry norms and expectations from them. And it's also a great opportunity for you to network with people who are already in the industry, who will serve as a resource base for you when you're working in the vaccine manufacturing industry. So what are some of the differences that I saw and similarities that I saw between vaccine research and development and manufacturing? The first thing that I noticed was the thinking is a bit different. For example, in research and discovery, you're thinking, can it work? It's basic research, or can I get publishable results from my experiment? But in development, you have now moved on. to now fine-tuning your discovery from research and development. And then in manufacturing, you're now thinking about putting this product on the market. You're trying to see, is it manufacturable? Can we make it the same way every time, safely and compliantly? And what is happening in research and discovery is that you're discovering antigens or therapeutic targets. There's also preclinical proof of concept studies and exploratory immunogenicity and efficacy testing. While in development, there's candidate optimization. For example, if it's an mRNA vaccine, you're trying to design to optimize the codon or to design the antigen in a better way. You're also trying to develop the formulations, and this is where process development begins to establish a scalable and reproducible process. But in manufacturing, innovation will now be tested by regulation to see if we can make reproducible batches that can go into the market. Also, the end goal is very different. In innovation is to provide the intellectual property which will fit into development and manufacturing by providing the blueprint for manufacturing. While development will transform a promising antigen candidate into a safe, effective, and manufacturable product. And the goal for manufacturing is safe, reproducible batches that pass regulatory scrutiny. The other thing that I think is very important to know before you make the transition to vaccine manufacturing or to start a career in vaccine manufacturing is to know the nature of vaccines and how it influences the manufacturing processes. For example, the first thing is the nature of the active pharmaceutical ingredient in vaccines. So normally the active pharmaceutical ingredient or the API is typically a complex biological antigen, which can be protein, which can be nucleic acid, which can be an inactivated toxin, which is less predictable and highly unstable. And API complexity makes vaccine production more sensitive, requiring more strict manufacturing controls and extensive quality testing, which complicates scalable manufacturing. You'll find that what might work in the lab might actually not work at scale in vaccine manufacturing because of the nature of the API. The second thing is product characterization and analysis is also very challenging. Unlike traditional chemical drugs where you can easily just do a chemical technique, a routine chemical analysis, for example, HPLC or nuclear magnetic resonance or mass spectrometry. Vaccines often require biological assays that may be time-consuming, variable, and less precise. And lot release testing is more complex and often requiring in vivo and in vitro testing to confirm immunogenicity and sterility. The third thing is the manufacturing system complexity. So vaccines are usually manufactured using living expression systems, which can be mammalian cells, which can be bacterial cells, which can be yeast, and they're sensitive to minor fluctuations in parameters such as temperature, pH, oxygen tension, and nutrient supply. And it's very important to control what are called critical process parameters and to understand their effect on critical quality attributes. And this is very central in vaccine manufacturing. I'll explain in the next few slides what CPPs and CQAs are for those who might not know what they are. And then the fourth thing that you need to know is there's very stringent aseptic control and contamination risk. So vaccines are normally administered parenterally to healthy people or to infants who have an underdeveloped immune system or to individuals who might be immunocompromised. Hence, every vial should be contamination-free. It should be free from adventitious viruses, mycoplasma, and endotoxins. And contamination with these agents can render an entire batch unusable. So the whole vaccine manufacturing system is built around keeping vaccines safe and preventing their contamination. Sorry. The nature of vaccines is also complicated because the active pharmaceutical ingredient can easily be denatured. For example, we cannot do what is called terminal sterilization. For example, you manufacture the vaccine and then you just maybe pasteurize it at the end. That is not possible with vaccines because of the nature of the active pharmaceutical ingredient. So the only way to make a safe vaccine is to use aseptic manufacturing, where you prevent contamination at every step of the manufacturing process. And having knowledge of this before you start a career in vaccine manufacturing will help your transition become smooth, because you understand you're working in a highly regulated environment, and you need to understand that every process step is important in keeping your product safe. Right, so I'll explain what are critical quality attributes that I had talked about. So basically, CQAs define what needs to be controlled in the vaccine. They are physical, chemical, biological, microbiological indicators of vaccine integrity, quality, safety, and efficacy. And they must be within an appropriate limit, range, or distribution that are tightly controlled under CGMP. And they are governed by regulatory frameworks, for example, the ICH Q8 and Q10. They are identified during product and process development, and then monitored and controlled throughout the manufacturing life cycle to ensure batch-to-batch consistency. So examples of critical quality attributes are potency, which is important because it ensures that the vaccine elicits the intended immune response. Basically, does it work? The second is purity. Are there absence of impurities? For example, hostile proteins. Like I said, vaccines are usually made using biological systems. There don't need to be any debris from those cells in the vaccine. Then the identity. Is it the correct antigen that you're manufacturing? Because normally cells have a lot more other antigens. So are you having the correct antigen in your vaccine? The other CQA that is important is sterility. Is there no contamination of your vaccine? Then also things like pH and osmolality, which maintain stability and compatibility. Then endotoxin levels, they have to be within limits, which is very minimum, and this will minimize pyrogenic reactions. Then there should also be an absence of residual reagents or solvents, which ensure that chemicals are below safe thresholds. Then appearance and color, which indicates formulation consistency and degradation. So sometimes when you're coming from research, you don't need to really know about CQAs because it might not be necessary for your experiments. But when you're working in vaccine manufacturing, it's one of the key things that you need to understand. The other is the critical process parameters, which basically define what needs to be controlled in the process to achieve the CQAs. They are key process variables that must be controlled within defined limits of to ensure that the critical quality attributes of the vaccine are consistently met. So one thing that is key in vaccine manufacturing is consistency. Every batch that is manufactured needs to be the same and within the acceptable limits. And to do that, we control the process variables. The process needs to be under control, which means the CPPs need to be within the defined limits. Now, how do we classify what is the critical process parameter? A process parameter is considered as critical if a change in that parameter can impact one or more critical quality attributes. For example, it impacts sterility, purity, potency, and the likes. If altering that parameter could compromise the vaccine's potency, purity, or safety, then it's critical. And they form the basis for process control strategies under quality by design. They must be defined, monitored, and validated as part of CGMP compliance. I just gave an example of what a critical process parameter is. For example, if the process step is cell culture, examples of CPPs can be temperature, pH, agitation, dissolved oxygen, and they affect potency and purity. During downstream processing and purification, examples of CPPs can be flow rate, during chromatography, column loading, buffer, and pH. Buffer pH, and they also affect purity and identity of the vaccine product. The other important thing to know is the quality target product profile, which are the QTPPs. So the QTPPs are defined as what the product should be. And it is a prospective summary of the quality characteristics of a vaccine product that are required to ensure desired clinical performance, regulatory compliance, and manufacturability. It is a core element of quality by design approach and serves as a foundation for defining CQAs that aligns technical development, control strategy with end-use purpose. In practice, QTPBs are for vaccines typically include the intended dosage form and route of administration, required potency, purity, and safety profiles, storage and stability targets, immunogenicity expectations, compatibility with delivery systems, for example, the vial or the syringe. And they are not static, they evolve with new data that is usually collected after the marketing stage or clinical trials. And also from regulatory feedback. An example for QTPP is, for example, stating that the shelf life should be greater or equal to 12 months at -2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Right, so what are some of the foundational principles that you need to learn before you start vaccine manufacturing? The first one is the current good practices, the CGXPs. These include your good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practice, and good clinical practice, the pharmaceutical quality system, quality by design, principles of aseptic manufacturing, validation and qualification, raw material and supply chain control, personal training and qualification, vaccine ethics, risk management, continuous improvement, regulatory oversight, and lifecycle management. So the question is, where can someone get knowledge for these principles? So the short trainings that I highlighted to earlier, they usually provide some of the knowledge for these principles. For example, I know the International Vaccine Institute runs a GXP training course. The pharmaceutical quality system is also part of some of the trainings, but some of them you actually need to learn by reading yourself, especially the regulatory frameworks. You need to read them yourself. And I just gave a brief insight of some of the regulatory frameworks that you need to understand before starting a career in vaccine manufacturing. Vaccine manufacturing is governed by very stringent regulatory frameworks established by global and national authorities to ensure product safety, efficacy, quality at every stage of the life cycle. So some of the guidelines that are used by vaccine manufacturers include the WHO guidelines, for example, the good manufacturing practices for biological products, the guidelines for vaccine pre-qualification, the TRIS series. Then there's also the International Council for Harmonization guidelines, for example, ICHQ5, which is for biotech product specific quality guidance, ICHQ8 to Q12, which includes the quality by design, risk management, and lifecycle management. Then the ICHQ9 for quality risk management, and ICHQ10, which is the pharmaceutical quality system. So if you go onto the ICH website and search for these documents, you can find them and read them. They make very interesting reading if you're interested in vaccines. Then there's also guidelines by the United States Food and Drug Administration, Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, which is the 21st Code of Regulations, parts 210, 211, 600 to 680. And they include, industry guidance for process validation and for current good manufacturing practice. Then there's also the EU GMP guidance, which is the Annex 1 for manufacture of sterile medicinal products, then Annex 2 for biological and medicinal substance production. So another good platform to learn about these regulatory frameworks is the WHO CGMP marathon that is conducted every year. If you sign up for that, for those webinars, you will learn a lot about the regulatory framework that governs vaccine manufacturing. So what are some of the lessons that I learned during my transition from research and development to manufacturing? The first lesson that I learned was that manufacturing demands consistency, compliance, and reproducibility. If there is one sector that you have to be accountable for each and every action that you take, it's vaccine manufacturing. Also, regulatory knowledge is essential and not peripheral. In research and development, you might not need to be well versed with all the regulatory frameworks, but in vaccine manufacturing, you cannot do without knowledge of regulation of vaccines. Then the third thing I learned is that a product is only as good as its the robustness of its process. If it cannot be manufactured consistently and within limits, then that product cannot reach the market. So it's not good for manufacturing. So vaccine developers need to be aware of this during the research and development phase, because it affects the whole pipeline to manufacturing. Then also, I had to learn that effective communication and cross-functional collaboration determines team success. Having worked in research and development, it's so easy to be in your own bubble, because you can be one person running an experiment in a lab. You don't even have to talk to anyone. But vaccine manufacturing will force you to talk to other people, because there's a lot of cross team collaboration. For example, I was working in tech services and validation, but I had to work together with people from quality assurance, people from quality control, of supply chain, from engineering. You need to learn to be able to talk to those people. And this is one thing I struggled with during my transition, because I was so used to being in my shell. I could not talk to a lot of people, but my manager, Chileman Laboratories, would just tell me, Charity, you need to go and talk to QA. And I would just say, maybe can I write them an email? And he'd be like, no, go and talk to them face to face. And that really helped me learn how to function with a team that has people from different skill areas. Then also, documentation and data integrity are critical, and they affect manufacturing success. I was fortunate enough to be part of the audit preparation at Chileman Laboratories, and this is where I saw in real life practice the importance of documentation and data integrity, because it can make or break your audit success. And unlike in research and development, where you can just write a lab note in your notebook or a rough piece of paper and that's okay, but in vaccine manufacturing that does not work. Everything needs to be documented, or they say if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So your mindset has to shift from that writing notes in your lab book and to formally documenting everything that you're doing. And there are also social lessons that I learned during this transition. The first thing is, do your research well so that you know what you're headed for. For example, I used to think that in vaccine manufacturing, everyone gowns in and goes into the lab and everybody is working in a clean room, but it's not like that. Some of these jobs in vaccine manufacturing, they're actually desk jobs. You're doing a lot of paperwork. It might not be what you think. So do a lot of research of which area you want to go into. The other thing is, if you decide to take the longer trainings like apprenticeships, it might be in another country, which is not where you're used to living or where you grew up. And you might experience a lot of culture shock. For example, I had to move from Zimbabwe to Singapore. There are different people with very different culture, and I had to adjust very quickly. And also, living in a new country, leaving your family behind, it can test your mental health and your resolve. You're not used to the cultural system. And for me, it was very difficult to leave my son, because he was 1 at the time, and that really had a huge impact on my mental health. And you need to be someone who's very strong if you decide to take an apprenticeship. Then the other thing is, you need to learn, relearn, and unlearn a lot of things. So vaccine manufacturing is one. I used to think vaccine manufacturing, there's no learning. You're just getting an SOP from somewhere and doing whatever the SOP says. But there's a lot of reading and learning that goes on there. Learning both from your peers, learning from documentation, learning from actual experience. So you should be someone with an open mind. And also you should be someone who is willing to have other people critique your work. I remember in research and development, the only time I had someone really critique my work is if you want to publish something, like they just do a peer review. But in vaccine manufacturing, your team is also critiquing your work. During my time at Chileman Laboratories, at one point I had the time to write a process document, and then the quality control team, they really reviewed my document. I felt like it was a personal attack. But I had to learn that it's not a personal attack. It's because vaccine manufacturing has a lot of checks and balances, so that nothing falls through the cracks. And every time you do your best to create a product that is safe for the consumers. And so you should be willing to have people check your work, double check your own work, check other people's work. And it will not be about you. It's about the product and the process. The other thing is you should also find, if you want to go into vaccine manufacturing, find an area that suits you, your lifestyle, and your personality. For example, if you become a manufacturing person who goes into the clean room, right, you're not allowed to wear makeup, lashes, acrylic nails. So if you're someone who likes that, that area might not be for you. You should find an area that suits you. Then also manufacturing will bring you out of your shell. Like I said, your communication skills will need to really improve. And also having a strong support network will make your life easier. For example, like for instance, I said I left my son behind. He was very young at the time. And I was fortunate enough to have people who could take care of him in my absence. And also my husband also was also a big help during that time. So building a support network within your family and also within the industry will also help you a lot. I had a lot of encouragement from colleagues working in this industry, and that also made my transition also a lot smoother and an enjoyable experience. But above all, I would like to share that the transition from research and development to manufacturing is worth it. I really enjoyed the process, and I'm really grateful for the people who made it possible. The KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Program team, the people from CSIR, from IBI, my current employer who was able to give me time off to be part of these programs, and I'm really grateful for all that. That is the end of my presentation.
Yes, thank you, Charity, for a very nice presentation. So, yes, we'll move to the Q&A session. Let me check the chat if there is any question, and also the Q&A section. Yes, we have Chagara raising an hand.
Okay, I cannot see his question. I see also Professor Chingwari is also raising his hand.
Yes, we start with Chagara. Yes, Chagara, go ahead with your question.
Oh, you can type in the chat. I can also see it.
Okay. I think I can. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for an insightful presentation, Charity. We get to learn a lot about vaccinology and your transition. Maybe just quick ones that may not be so direct to your presentation, but there is kind of some misinformation about vaccines in general, maybe as a result of the COVID-19 vaccines, etc., especially from the social media. Maybe you can comment how maybe the scientific world can try to correct or try to relay correct information, especially to the general public. Then the last one could be, I see that there is need of, especially on the manufacturing part, but even in the research and development, there's need of some real investment in terms of money. Maybe in the context of the developing countries, maybe some funding models or some ways that can be brought up to really help in this field. Yeah, thank you for those are my questions.
Okay, I think I'll answer. It's for the safety of vaccines. I think the best answer I can provide you is I am a mom and my son has been vaccinated. And I also get vaccinated because I know the manufacturing process and I know there are a lot of checks and balances to make sure that vaccines are really safe. Maybe there's a gap where vaccine manufacturers and scientists need to share information on the safety, the quality process, and also the testing and regulation that a vaccine undergoes before it reaches end consumers. Because this knowledge gap is what people fill in with whatever they get from social media or whatever sources that they read from. So this knowledge gap is something that maybe everybody in the vaccinology field needs to help fill in. When it comes to funding, vaccine manufacturing is a very capital-intensive exercise, and it's true there's a need for a lot of investment in the area, and maybe if the private sector and also the African governments can also try to make deliberate efforts to increase investment in the area, this could help quite a lot.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's Professor. Professor Chigwaru. Yes. Hello. Professor Chigwaru, go ahead. I've unmuted. Hello. Can go to Mike and come later to Professor Chigwaru. Mike, go ahead. Mike. Mike, go ahead. Esther Marona, go ahead, kindly. Hello. Esther Marona. You can check the questions on the chat as Esther looks at microphone. Yes, there is a question from Amadou. What is the most necessary element for the vaccine production process? That's on the chat.
Okay, that's a difficult question because I think almost every element of vaccine manufacturing is important. So I'll just state some of the elements that you need. For example, the first thing is you need the process that has been developed by research and development manufacturing. You need a facility, you need utilities, you need consumables. And so I think you cannot really say one element is the most important. I think all the elements of the vaccine manufacturing process are important. I see a question from Professor Chungwaru. Can we come up with an alliance to help each other with the manufacturing drive? Maybe someone can lead. I believe there are already alliances that are already doing this work. For example, the Partnership for Vaccine Manufacturing, the African Partnership, I think, it's already doing this. But well, we could also do more work, I believe.
Yeah, very true. There is also a question from Tikang. Can read it. I'm a biochemistry student from Cameroon, and I'm very much interested in taking either short course or apprenticeship in vaccinology. Please, when exactly are these opportunities launched so I can be alerted?
So there are organizations that I shared, for example, the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Programs. On LinkedIn, if you follow these organizations, for example, KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Program, International Vaccine Institute, the DCMVN, IVI, they usually post their adverts there. And then there are also people that you can also follow. They usually post or repost. For example, whenever I see a training, I sometimes repost it. There are people, for example, like Dr. Chidwa Mwila from Africa CDC. There is also Dr. Gant from CSIR, and a lot of people in the industry. They usually share these opportunities whenever they come up.
Sure. We always post our opportunities when they arise from the vaccinology course to the apprenticeships. So be on the lookout for such opportunities. There is also a question. Could you comment from Alfred? Could you comment also on transition from African-based research and development ecosystem to be part of a vaccine manufacturing in a developed country or vaccine industry?
Okay, so I wouldn't say there's a country culture, but every organization is different, and practices and norms and cultural, the way things are done in each and every country and each and every company are different. But I would say you just need to be someone who's open-minded and adaptable and willing to learn new things, and you definitely enjoy the transition. I did.
Yeah. Maybe we have answered this, but let me read it out again. Thank you for mentioning the need for apprenticeships and short courses. Could you also comment on how someone from low and middle income countries could strive to get into these trainings? I understand there is a competition because of funding.
Okay, I'm from Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is a low to middle income country. And I think getting into some of these programs depends on the quality of your application. If you really take time to put effort and in drafting your application, you might actually get into these programs. And what I noticed is once you get an opportunity for one, it's easier to get the next. So even those short online trainings that you think might not have value, taking part in those, even webinars, they also increase your chances in of getting into some of these programs because they will give you traction that you can actually build on.
Very true. There is also another question from Mike. I'm a seasoned research statistics and data analysis consultant. What are the new things that one should expect when transitioning to vaccinology research?
Okay. I think coming from research and statistics and data analysis, you already have transferable skills that you can actually use in research. So, okay, the focus of my presentation was not necessarily research, but I've been on the research side of things. And I think research is quite open. There are a lot of things that you can follow. There are a lot of ideas and concepts that you can expect to be able to take part in. And I feel there's room for people who are doing even statistics analysis in vaccinology research.
True. Let me read another statement from Ameyo Douglas. It says that for those interested, there is a nice program, Master's Reading International Vaccinology Education. As a beneficiary, I recommend sponsored by Erasmus in Europe. So maybe we can get a link from Ameyo on the chat for those interested. Yes, let me give West a chance to ask a question.
Can you hear
Esther,
me?
you can go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Great. I have, I'm from Kenya. I have two concerns, or rather questions. What's the regulatory pathway for vaccine manufacturing? Or could it be the same as these other products, or for vaccine manufacturing is somehow wider? Then when handling vaccinology as a whole, have we also considered the cultural beliefs, because most of the time you find that maybe people from rural areas tend to not to buy the ideas of vaccines. Like, are we trying to invest in how we can tell them and explain to them how important vaccines are? Those are my concerns.
Thank you, Esther. Charity, please.
Okay, so her first question was about, sorry, I didn't quite get the first question, but I'll answer about the question about people in rural areas not being open to vaccines. I think it's a matter of education, like I said, filling the knowledge gap in the population when it comes to vaccines. There's a lot of work that needs to be done for advocating for the uptake and use of vaccines. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic emphasized this need for us to take part in advocacy work. And I think it's everybody's responsibility within the vaccinology sector to educate the public. I didn't quite get her first question.
The first question was on the regulatory pathways for vaccines when you compare it to the normal drugs, that maybe the tablets, the syrups.
Okay, so vaccines are manufactured using a very different process as compared to, for example, antibiotics or the oral dosage forms, right, which don't have to really be sterile per se. Vaccines are manufactured using aseptic process manufacturing, which is every step of the process is tightly controlled to prevent contamination. And the regulatory pathway is quite different for vaccines as compared to other chemical drugs. And the regulatory pathway depends on the organization that is doing the regulation. Like each national regulator has their own regulations, even though some of them can be harmonized. But for vaccines, they're quite different from chemical drugs.
Let me go to Mike. Mike, go ahead for your question. Andrew. Hello, Mike.
Hello, thank you very much. I think I already asked the question through the chat.
Okay.
So you can go to maybe the next person who might have a question.
Yes. Professor Jigwaru, question.
Oh, his question was about the Alliance for Vaccine Manufacturing Drive. And I think I had answered this one. There are already some organization in place that are doing this. For example, the Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacturing.
Yes, read by African CDC.
Yes. Question from Amario.
You can have a question from Ivenue. Ivenue, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ife Nwaudalo. I'm very precise. So I'm here not for the question, I'm here for the support. The person that spoke is my sister from Zim Charity. And I thank her for the knowledge she has imparted on us this morning. And I also want to emphasize more on the networking. Very, very important. I was privileged to attend the 2023 hands-on training with her. That's where I met her. And I remember the first thing she said to me when she looked at my LinkedIn, she was like, this your LinkedIn looks somehow like a playground. And that is why you work so much and yet you are not recognized. So if you want to get into if you want to get these trainings, first of all, you have to work on who you are professionally, not personally. Bonaventure, I was working on myself personally, not professionally, until I met her. She helped me work on myself professionally, so that when this opportunity comes forward, you apply. They look into your LinkedIn. They won't even, they don't call you. They go to your page on LinkedIn, most precise. They look at it and see what you have done for yourself professionally. So it was after she worked with me on my LinkedIn, she looked at my CV that I was able to move 10 steps ahead in biomanufacturing field. So when you get the opportunity to work on yourself professionally and not personally, and also attend these webinars, like she said, and all those little trainings, they amount to you getting the bigger opportunity. So that's what I want to say. Thank you very much, Charity, for working on me and also working on us. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for the nice comment. We appreciate. There is a question also on the chat asking, in biomanufacturing, you have tried to leverage. Have you tried to leverage mRNA-based vaccines? Have you also faced challenges with in epidemiology and misinformation for vaccine uptake?
Okay, so I haven't really been part of the mRNA-based manufacturing, but I know that in Africa, Afrigen Biologics is the hub for mRNA technology. And if you're interested in mRNA vaccines, I think Afrigen Biologics will really be able to help with this. And I think the infodemiology, as he called it, I think all of us experienced it during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's always people, even from my own family, asking me about the safety of vaccines, and I feel like it's everybody's duty to educate the public using the scientific knowledge and the process knowledge that we have. We can actually do a lot to counter this misinformation.
Very true. I go to the next question. Currently, what are the priority vaccines in the pipeline?
I think this is a very broad question. Maybe priority, the question would be priority for who? So it depends on the organization, the country, and their goals. Yeah.
Very true. It varies from one organization to another. Yes, but also the WHO has a priority vaccines for pre-qualification on their site. So something to check out. Go to the Q&A section. Alfred, I believe this answer, the question was asked about transitioning from low income countries to developed countries in the vaccine industry. That one was answered. Unless there is another question, Mike's question was answered. Also, Mayo, Douglas' also question was answered. Unless there is another question online.
I see Mayo has his hand up.
I mean, okay. Ameyo, kind regard.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Douglas. I'm a Kenyan, and that's a great work, Charity. So this is a great talk, and I'm also interested in vaccinology. The reason why I've asked a lot of questions, currently I'm working with the mRNA technology in France, and that is like why I thought it is very, very important that it is something that we applicants from low middle income countries can consider, because honestly it's for me, I did the assessment, it's more cheaper and more doable actually. So for me, it is more or less like just a comment. And just for those people that are also interested, I did also the program Leading International Vaccinology, which deals more or less on, vaccine development, new platform and all that. And I shared the chat. It's a program that I highly recommend, sponsored by Erasmus Mundus, 2-year master's degree. So for those that are interested and they might need some guidance on how to apply and get into this program, you can reach to me and I'll help in the application process. It's quite competitive, but I hope with guidance, it's something we can do. And as others they have asked, I think it's also important we can have an alliance where we can support each other, because in the future we really need a lot of vaccinologists to tackle this misinformation, disinformation, and infodemiology, because I think now it's a bigger threat than even the vaccines themselves. So that is just the comment that I had, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ameyo, for that nice comment and information. Also go to Mike. Mike, kindly go ahead. Yes, Mike.
Hello, thank you, Charity, for your presentation. I have learned a lot from what you have taught us about the vaccinology, and I'm highly interested in actually moving to that field from maybe a research from general and social research to maybe vaccinology research. Okay, my question is that in most cases we have most of the vaccine are generated from the Western countries. What is it that maybe we can do in an African context so that we can start to have the ability to generate vaccines maybe within the African countries?
Okay, thank you, Mike, for your question. A lot of the vaccine targets are developed in first world countries, and this is mostly because there's a lot of investment into research and development. Also, there's also a lot of manufacturing that's going on there, and they have a lot more regulatory experience as compared to African countries. So I think what we need to do is to invest more in research and development, invest more in manufacturing facilities. And I think there's already a drive for this to happen, because the Africa CDC launched they have launched a call to make sure that by 2030, at least I think is it 80% of the vaccines are manufactured within the African continent. So there's actually work that is ongoing to establish biomanufacturing in Africa, and so part of these trainings are also part of that program to develop the talent that will work in vaccine development and manufacturing within the African continent. So currently, African countries are trying to develop manufacturing facilities, their regulatory agencies, the biomanufacturing talent to raise capital. This is work that is ongoing, and it would be great if you would also take part in some of that work as well.
Very true. There is a question from Duncan Kibet. Hello, if I may ask concerning vaccine development, must one have to specialize in vaccinology and one having a background knowledge in biochemistry or immunology can participate?
Okay, people with a biochemistry and immunology background can also participate. I'm from a biotechnology background, and I'm part of vaccinology. The other thing to note is also that there are a lot of career options in vaccine manufacturing. They range from engineering, supply chain, quality assurance, project management. So a lot of different skills are needed in vaccinology, and almost a lot of people can be part of this, even people from finance, they can be part of vaccinology as well. One question about the complexity of vaccines and what are the most significant challenges in establishing and controlling CQAs to ensure batch-to-batch consistency? And how can manufacturers balance stringent regulatory biological realities of vaccine development? Okay, like I said earlier on, a vaccine product is only as good as its manufacturing process. And the unfortunate thing is sometimes There's tech transfer from research and development to manufacturing, and vaccine scale-up is not a linear process. I think the most difficult thing is translating a research process into and scaling up into a manufacturing process, making sure that you can control the CQAs and CEPPs. I think that's the most difficult thing. Adapting a research process for cGMP manufacturing is very difficult. And also, how can manufacturers balance stringent regulatory expectations? I think the first point is to understand what the regulators need you to do, why it has to be done, and then understanding your process. Does it make scientific sense? Does it meet regulatory expectations? So there's a balance between understanding what the regulator wants and your capabilities and trying to match the two. And I think the first point also, the other point to start is to realize that regulators are not really the enemy when it comes to vaccine manufacturing. They're actually there to make you better, and working with them, communicating with them, asking about the expectations will actually help you to meet their stringent expectations.
Sure. Let's go to Festus Uganda online. Kindly go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. Very informative. Now, I wanted to ask, I'm a pharmacist. I'm from Kenya, and I've been constantly looking at aspects which relate to pharmacovigilance, and this is on the issue of vaccines in general. Are there any platforms whereby somebody can take short courses in pharmacovigilance, especially in vaccine, for vaccine and vaccine products? Because I've seen there is quite a gap here. I do know, obviously, that this is looked at in broad spectrum, but I do feel this should be encouraged if you're looking at safety for vaccines, especially for the population, because we're having a lot of mass vaccinations for the children, etc. Obviously, we have pharmacists who are in pharmacovigilance, but is there any specificity for vaccines per se? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. I am not an expert in pharmacology, but I believe there should be. Probably, maybe if you network with other pharmacists working in the industry, they will probably know. I know from Kenya is Mr. Rabira Kenyanya from Kenya, it must be Kenya Biovac. Probably she would provide some insight into that. I am not an expert in pharmacovigilance.
Yes, can go ahead. There is the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization that has centers, regional centers of regulatory excellence. I'm sure we'll need to check it up. They might have more information on pharmacovigilance, basically trainings on safety and efficacy of vaccines post authorization. So it's something to check and look out for that. Festus. So go to the chat to check if there's another question. Follow up. What are the core competences or trainings essential for someone transitioning from academic research into biomanufacturing?
Okay, so some of them, example, the CGXP training is also aseptic behavior, like how to conduct yourself in aseptic environments. Then there's also training in regulatory requirements. I think these are some of the very core that you need, and also maybe some technical skills.
There is another question on sharing the presentation slides.
Okay, I can share them. Maybe I can write my email for anyone who wants them. Writing it in the chat.
That would be helpful. or
Okay,
someone
so
would like to go through them. Sure.
anybody who needs them can just email me and I'll gladly email the slides.
Yes, there's a question to Douglas. Could you mind resharing the link to the application? I think this is for the IVI GXP courses. Yes.
Okay.
Douglas, you can share the link there, or we'll also share the link for that. So there is no another further questions from
There
the
is one question
audience
in French. Unfortunately, I don't speak French.
on the chat.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah, it's
translate
probably
that.
to do with French language, I guess.
He's asking, is there a French version for these training courses?
I think Institute Pasteur should have. I'm not very
Yes,
sure, but I'm assuming that since
actually,
it's in Senegal, they probably do
yes.
have something in French.
Last month we had a bilingual vaccinology course that was done in French and English. So that was organized by the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Program through the Vaccine Workforce Development Program and Institute Pasteur in Dakar, Senegal, and the Jena Institute. So these opportunities will always come, so be on the lookout. Yes, thank you.
The hand from Festus.
Okay. Maybe Charles, you could have your last remarks. There being another question from the audience, kindly. Yes, Charles, go ahead. Last comments, remarks.
Okay, I would like to thank everybody for listening and participating in the webinar. If you have any question, do not be afraid to reach out to me on LinkedIn or through my email, which I have shared. And I would like to thank the KEMRI-Wellcome Trust Research Program for making this webinar possible. And also everybody who's been part of my vaccinology journey, directly or indirectly. I would also want to give them a very big thank you. And everybody, like I said, thank you for attending.
Yes, thank you very much, Charity, and thank you very much, everyone, in this webinar. This was very informative and interactive. Have a good day and looking forward to more engagements with you. Before we close, kindly requesting that you take a few minutes to respond to the post-webinar survey posted in the chat. We could like to hear about your experience and what else you could like us to discuss in the upcoming forums. Have a good day and looking forward to more engagements with you.